Fluffy versus Robocop gave us an all-time war. I'll be talking about the other huge winners from that UFC Sacramento card, and then we'll be getting into some big boxing conversation as Teofimo Lopez defeated Rolly to become and new, baby. All the topics surrounding that fight and the division, all my thoughts leaving that one. RAF 12 wrapped up. They had some UFC legends compete, and want to talk some results there. I'll have timestamps listed below as always. Welcome back to the Hurt Business Podcast. I'm the host, Ferris Sharari.
This is business.
This is the hurt business. We're gonna go out there and try to hurt each other.
And I don't care if you're the king of the hurt business.
It is what it is. It's the fight business.
We are not in the nice guy business. It's a very mean business.
Anthony Hernandez, I had him going into this. I'll be honest and I'll be upfront and foremost. I thought in terms of skills and overall tools, what he poses to the table versus what Robocop did. I thought he had much more skills under his belt. He can do much more. He can better training partners, perhaps. He's been all over, maybe better competition. He's dominated a lot more in the UFC, in my opinion. And I just thought him versus Robocop, he would prove that there's levels, A, but B, I didn't think Robocop had the cardio to go 5-5s. That was really impressive. And towards the end, he was wicked tired. Robocop probably showed the greatest takedown defense of all time. He defended 26, I believe, of 29 were the numbers on the takedown defense. Yeah, 3 of 29 were landed. So that means he defended 26 takedowns. And I know it's no morale, but it's damn close. And if you watch the fight, you've seen it. Anthony Hernandez's game plan was definitely to shoot. But he made it so entertaining, man. He really did. He brought the scrapping. He would exchange. He would throw hammers. I believe it was the end of the second round. They were literally just exchanging. Pop, 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 pop. Robocop back against the fence. Anthony Hernandez throwing everything he had. He really tried. He really tried. And at one point, he had no legs under him. He kept trying to switch stances, and it did not look good. I believe Robocop's corner was literally like, he doesn't even know how to play in southpaw, but he had no lead leg at orthodox, so he had no other option. He had to bounce around and switch, and he showed that he can adapt in some hard situations, and he gave it a fun fight, man. I really think it was a fun one. Unfortunately, I do think this one might not age well for Anthony Hernandez. I think it was such a fun fight, right? We can all agree that it was a banger, yeah, but are we going to come back and watch this fight in like 6 weeks or 10 weeks or next year and think about, oh, remember that time Anthony Hernandez fought Robocop? I don't know. In the moment, watching it live, it was definitely exciting. 100%. A guy in front of his hometown crowd trying to bring home the dub in front of his people. There were fluffy chants that were translating through the screen. You could hear it clearly, and that's always wicked cool. But Robocop, I think this is his ceiling. I'll be honest. I think this is his ceiling. He called out DDP in that post fight. And I think if that comes to fruition and he lines up against DDP, that will not look as lovely. And Anthony Hernandez definitely put him through some deep waters. This wasn't no easy win by no means. By no means. Like, this is a guy who was pushing you for 5-5s and in your face. And you were chopping the woods, and it was working. It was effective. Those leg kicks that Robo was throwing were knocking Fluffy off of his feet, putting him on his face. Ah, man, it was a rough one for me. I had Fluffy going in. I'll say it again. I'm a big Fluffy guy, but Robocop just had the answers for the takedown, and we didn't even get to see the jiu-jitsu or what that looked like against Robocop's high level. It's like Robocop was like, I'm not playing jiu-jitsu here. I'm coming to fight. And to his credit, he did for 5-5s. And that's really hard when you look like that guy. Look at him. That's all muscle. That is all muscle. And he definitely has an interesting frame. He like gut is like inwards and he's like standing up. He definitely is an interesting fella, and he's a fun fight. He's a fun fight because clearly he knows how to game plan. He works with a great team. We seen what that corner looked like. He had Vicente Luque. I was surprised not to see Gilbert Burns there, but he had the head honcho. I forget his Henry Hoof. He had big old Henry Hoof in his corner, and that's a world championship level team. So I don't know if Robocop can, if he beats if that fight comes to fruition and DDP fights him, because DDP just beat Usman. Well, why should he fight backwards again? That doesn't really answer no questions, but maybe it's like give him an actual middleweight instead of a welterweight coming up. If Robocop somehow, if that fight versus versus DDP somehow comes to fruition and he figures out a way to beat DDP, this might be the craziest run. How old is Robocop? Because I feel like he's almost touching 40. If I had to guess, he's not far off from 40 years young. Whoa, 34. What's up with those Kill Cliff guys? It's very deceiving. I think they're all way older. I did this with Vicente Luque like 2 weeks ago. I thought he was touching 42. He's the same age as Robo. They're both 34. Yeah, you see his face here. He definitely ate some damage. It was a war. It was an absolute war. Fluffy's face didn't look as bad, but he had no legs. He had that shoulder injury that he alluded to after the fight. This was a banger, boys. This was a banger. And I don't know if I'll ever have a desire to rewatch this fight, but it was very fun while I watched it live. That's what I'll give it. It definitely earned fight of the night. I second this. Definitely deserving of that 100K beans. Anthony Hernandez afterwards did come out and say this I was cheating thing, or he was cheating with the dirty tactics, grab the inside of his glove. And then he talked about the injury. I don't love when guys do this after fights. And Anthony Hernandez definitely brought it. Fluffy brought the fight the whole time, 5 rounds. He was there trying to win. So I don't love the whole shoulder excuse. And then the inside the glove thing, I didn't notice it watching it live. I did see Anthony like say things whenever they were in clinches situations. I did see that, but maybe that's why I'll rewatch it to see if there was actually some cheating involved, because we don't love that. Robo, come on, brother, play by the rules. Should be fair, but ref didn't call it. It is Herb Dean in there too. Herb has not had a good past year-ish. He's been on a pretty shaky run, I would say. So yeah, I don't love this. I don't love this, but it does happen. And yeah. Shout out Robocop for showing the greatest takedown defense of all time. I hope they do reward you with DDP. I do find it unlikely. Who they give you? Let's look at this rankings real quick. Let's look at these middleweights. So you just beat Anthony Hernandez. I imagine you take his spot. Damn, is he moving back further? Hurts. MVP, yeah, jump him. Yeah, I think you take 7, and then in front of you is interesting. Now, I don't think Piper has a fight right now. I don't think Brandon Allen has a fight right now. I think Nasruddin is convinced he's getting the title shot next. So I don't think he's going to accept anything. Where's DDP's 2, who just beat is coming off a big win recently this year. So I don't know if he fights again before the end of the year. We'll see. We'll see. But a big one for Robocop. Big one for Robocop, man. Congrats to him. Vitor Petrino, this was kind of a snooze. I didn't really love this fight. He did dominate Sergey, which I didn't see coming. I thought Sergey would have showed him that there's levels. Once you enter this top 10, it's different, but yeah, not Sergey's night. So congrats to Petrino, man, making his way into that top 10, climbing slowly but surely. I don't got really much on that one. RDR comes in at light heavy, and Roman Deliste just almost lays down. He just laid down. I didn't really understand this. I didn't know why he didn't really fight more or try to advance position. I didn't see a shot where he got hurt. There were those elbows when he was down, and maybe he got clipped with one of those, but I didn't really understand that from Roman Deliste. It's a rough stretch for him. And it's a show and out party for RDR, because I know he's coming off 1 loss. I think it was just 1. I don't think he has back-to-back losses. He talked about in his post-fight interview coming off a loss. Yeah. Oh, 2 of them. Yeah. Brandon Allen. Wow, I forgot about that. Wow. So it is 2 losses, maybe a must-win position for him. And he did it dominantly at a new weight class. And Roman Deliste, I don't really think he's really much of a light heavyweight. He's another middleweight moving up in weight. So I didn't Yeah, that one was kind of good shit, RDR. Hopefully you come back before the end of the year. He was emotional, talked about being away from his kids, which kind of touched, that's touchy. Maybe he wants to be with his kids, but hopefully we see him back in the octagon first quarter next year, or like very, very end of this year. Maybe get one more and then start making a run in this light heavyweight division come next year. RDR looked big, man. He looked big. So if he really wants to make a home at light heavy, I'm not mad at it. I think he poses some interesting matchups. He's a grappler with those knees on the feet. Yeah, I like RDR. And I really enjoyed his middleweight run with last year, I believe, when he had like those 4 or 5 wins in a row. Boom, 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 boom. It was last year. And then, Brandon Allen at the very end was like, yeah, but activity is the best ability, but burnout is a real thing. And let me show you something. And he did. And then he lost to Cow, and now he lost to Bahayo, and now he's back. He's back, baby, back in the win column. So see what he does next. This was definitely by far one of my favorite ones of the night. I fucking loved Markel Medeiros on the feet. Those elbows that he was landing, I don't know, something special about those elbows. I really, really do enjoy watching those. When somebody is able to mix them up in their stand-up and make them look like hooks and set them up so their opponent's coming into them and they just are met with an elbow. It's some of the prettiest striking in MMA to me. I love the body shots. I love the body knees. I love the elbows. But those elbow hook type strikes are just flashy and fresh and clean. Calvin Cater's one of my favorites that does it. He has a few KOs. Now Markel Medeiros got one under his belt against Mason Jones, who's a fucking dog. That's somebody who he looks like he could eat a bunch of shots, and he did, boy. He did. And he's tough as nails, bro. The guy didn't even go down. He ate 5 straight hard elbows to his face and said, I'm here. Didn't go down. That was a KO on the feet. Good stoppage by the ref because it could have got really, really bad. He was out. He was out on his feet. So good on the ref. Congrats to Markel Medeiros. He's one of my big winners from the card. Big W's for Markel. This was another cool winner. Clary Juice comes in against an undefeated Brazilian. They were hyping her up, and then she got body shot. Bang with a kick. Good night. Big win by her. She was a huge favorite, so maybe to no surprise, but I seen she was undefeated. So I felt like the world was leading her way, but I guess not when you look at that line. But Anthony Witt made his UFC debut just 11 days after he got the contract on the Dana White's Contender Series. He took out Terrence Chapman in the very first round, and this was serious, boy. Because we got to see Anthony Whitman against an actual heavyweight. Maybe Terrence Chapman didn't get an opportunity to get going, but the guy's an actual fighter. Right? Maybe the last one was we didn't really get to see much. This one we got to see much, much more. And it's somebody to be feared. Anthony Witt's making a real name for himself early on in his career. He said he wants to fight in Shanghai, which is literally default next weekend's card. And if you give him a matchup, I'm sure he would do it. He said in his post-fight interview that the only reason why he isn't is to give his coaches a break. If it was up to him and the UFC gave him a shot, he would take the flight red dot. And that's what is going to make you the most cheddar, the most everything in this sport, and just make you the most popular, make fans want you, make people like myself talk about you. And once he got Chapman down and got a grip of him, you see Chapman's like thinking about it. He's like, all right, I'm okay. I'm all right. And you see him playing the telephone game and collecting his arm to defend. But that grip must be serious. Because it felt like Terrence was there thinking, moving correctly, and then he was just out. He was just out. You see his leg, his just go out. And I'm very excited for Anthony Whitman to see what he does. Sorry, Anthony Went and see what he does in the UFC, because now he's starting to make a real name for himself. And we talk about Vitor Petrino, who didn't have many heavyweight fights. He just moved into division. He fought a UFC debutant, and now he's starting to fight in that top-ish of the division. I don't know how far Anthony Witt is from facing number 15 or somebody at the cusp of the rankings. I see him fighting experienced heavyweight next, somebody who we may know, and I'm prepared for that. I'm ready to see what Anthony Witt can do. All right. Honestly, the prelims were way better than the main card, if you ask me. It was just finish, and pretty fun finishes. This one was one of my favorites. The Jamal Emmers fight, the clean 1-2, bang, bang, down straight down the middle. Took Douglas out. One of the cleanest knockouts for me of the evening. This one was serious too. Shamil feels like to be a fan favorite. It feels like the boys on socials are getting behind him heavily. There's even a saying that you get Shamiled, and Kennedy definitely did. He was playing the low hands by the waist situation. You know, he's trying to play an Anderson Silva type game. And not at heavyweight, brother. Not at heavyweight. You get touched. You get touched by one of these touches of death. Good night. Good night. And Shamil kills people, clearly. He clearly knocks heads off. So Kennedy, I know Kennedy's good, man. He's talented. He just got caught playing a silly game, and you don't do that. And Bisping on the money with the call. No, he was literally calling it as he was seeing it, playing the stupid game, playing with those hands low, and then Shamil just missile counter. That's all it took. Chris Padilla, the Muay Thai versus Nasrat Haqparast. Man, this one kind of bummed me out. I'm a big Nasrat guy. I'll be honest. I gotta stand 10 toes. He had a rough 2 now, back to back. Nasrat sleeping on the canvases. It's not good. This one hurt especially because he was fighting a good fight. It was a fun back and forth fight. Maybe, I guess, based off these numbers, you're looking at it at face value. You would think Chris Padilla won, but it was a much closer fight. Of course, he gets the submission, literally buzzer beater, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. The final bell, Nasrat was there sleeping. And good win. And I know his corner and himself tried to pose that it was over before the bell rang, and I hear it, but it's not how that one played out. You definitely were snoozing, brother. That was a good finish. This one, Mauricio Barbosa versus Ryan Coos, I believe that says. Ryan Coos, I started to get behind him during fight week, I'll be honest, seeing the things he was saying, making his UFC debut. I believe he was from that area, but I could be getting that wrong. But yeah, UFC debut and getting a huge stage. You know, he got the call up relatively short notice, and those guys come to bang. And I definitely was excited. The things he was saying, I was like, all right, this guy's coming in to make a splash. And unfortunately, he got touched by literally the touch of death. Marcio Barbosa must hit like an absolute nightmare. The way that shot landed, it was a graze on the top of the forehead, and Ryan was just lost in the sauce on the ground. And great stoppage by the ref. When I was watching it for the first time, I was like, what the fuck? Like, there was no follow-up shots. There was no unnecessary. Like, he was just ready to defend, and then the ref called it. He did say, you got to move, you got to advance. He made no movement. And then the broadcast pointed out his eyes were dazed. You watch the recap, the guy's eyes look like he didn't know where he was. So that's great stoppage, and I believe Marcio Barbosa should be feared at featherweight. That dude can crack, boy. Another UFC debut, and this one getting the nod on the biggest stage. Stan Dorsainville. I'm definitely butchering that, but he's Haitian. He came out with the flag everywhere. He is flashy. He fights fun, and he fought a UFC fighter, Gage Young, and won. And he seemed surprised when the judges called it. It was a back and forth fight. Gage maybe did a little bit too much fence wrestling and not much advancing, and Stan did a lot more of that. and he wanted to fight. And maybe the judges counted that, which I love that they are. Which, speaking of judging, seeing Chris Lieben behind some of these cards and seeing him on the judging, when they list the 3, he's one of them. I find that shit awesome. And I think there should be more fighters getting into judging and reffing, because they are the ones who actually understand the sport and what it takes to win and lose. And what, if anybody does, it's them. The ones who've been in there and really get it. And I get sometimes emotion, right? We need some analytics and some brains behind it. It can't just be emotion, but they're not numbnuts. They got brains. So let's give them more jobs like Chris Lieben, because I find that shit to be awesome. So shout out Chris Lieben and any fighters trying to partake in judging. But Stan gets his UFC debut, and I think they said he was working at Home Depot like last week. He's a current Home Depot employee, casually a UFC fighter. That's gangster. That's gangster. And it goes to show that, like, most of these guys, especially up and coming, they're doing insane amount of work compared to training, compared to trying to live a life. They're balancing a million different things, chasing a dream. And it was cool to see Stan get his moment. Bisping started to say he won. He's like, Michael Bisping. That shit, it was really cool, man. It's really cool. People achieving their dreams. So shout out Stan. And shout out Chanel Dyer getting another UFC win, 2 KOs back-to-back, first 2 UFC fights. She's chasing some legendary stuff, this girl. She's only 25, and I think she's halfway there to the strawweight finish record. So let's put that into perspective. 2 fights in the UFC, and she's already chasing legacy and trying to break records. Excuse me. All right, that's all I really got on UFC Sacktown. This card was something special. I definitely had some fun watching it. Finish. And I know they just upgraded the Apex, so that's pretty cool to see people actually in there. They're not fighting in a closet with 12 people. They're fighting in front of at least 1,000. But this just always goes to show that the crowds, being in front of people, being in venues with 20,000 people screaming, Fluffy, Fluffy, those make for the best fights. And clearly the fighters show up too. Look at all these finishes. Dramatically. So yeah. UFC was fantastic. I enjoyed that card significantly. It was a good time. And I love the start time was a little bit early, so we got to watch the entirety of the UFC before even thinking about anything else, at least for myself. I wasn't watching the Teofimo Lopez versus Rolly Romero undercard. I have a lot to say about that, because a big card in this third quarter of 2026, a huge fight card on U.S. soil in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world, and you give us an undercard with nobody remotely interesting, no building, no stars, no established. There was none of it. We had 2 European fighter or 2 people from other parts of the world in the co-main event. And then in the fight before that, we had one of the Antoine Russell brothers, which I didn't realize there was another one. There's like 5 of these guys, and they're all good at boxing. But there wasn't let me think about this for a sec. There was no Jermell Charlo on the card. There was no Stephen Fulton. There was no Stephen Fulton on the card, who both guys had cards recently fall out. So I would have imagined they got themselves back in camp and back on the next possible card, matched up and going as fast as possible. And this was the card. This was the one. You give me a bigger card that's happening in the next 2 months that they should be a part of. I know we have that Zuffa card with Ryan and Conor Ben coming up, but you don't just get invited to those ones. You have to sign your life away to Zuffa in order to be a part of those cards. Where was the U.S. talent? Where was the U.S. talent on this undercard? I'm not gonna get over that one. Teofimo walked out with the young cats of the boxing, the Golden Glove champs, the local amateur fighters who were coming up in the sport. Teo, I love that message too, by the way. He talked about it in his post-fight interview. giving back to the next generation of people chasing greatness like Tio was once in the position of. I feel like sometimes it gets lost with these guys at the very top. They forget, and maybe they move out of their city, and then they're completely lost, and they forget about where they come from, and others in those same positions trying to get it up on their own. And not saying that they should turn around and give their hand to the next guy, but I'm saying they should be doing things like Tio is. And that's giving them the platform and showing them that this is possible. And if you continue chasing it, you could be fighting for the WBA World Championship. You could be fighting at the opportunity to become a 3-division world champion holder like Tio did. And boy, did he, man. What a fight we had on Saturday. Teofimo Lopez gets it done versus Rolly Romero. And I have a lot of thoughts on the fight itself. So let's dive into this. Got my fight book here for the audio only listeners. But Tio, man. Tio. That dude showed unbelievable heart in that fight. And I will be upfront. I had him going ahead. So not doing it on I told you so thing, because I think those guys are absolute losers. But I told you so. I definitely try to. And I enjoy Rolly. I think he has a very awkward style. He pushes the pace. He makes fighters uncomfortable. He's marching forward, and he has really big power that we've seen him drop guys and get guys up out of there. And he's always game, which is important in a fighter. But there was an absolute skill gap that I think we can all agree on. Teofimo Lopez's ceiling, I think, is a lot higher than Rolly's ceiling. And I think Rolly reached his ceiling in that 5th round. He was fighting unbelievably to that point. He was in Tio's face. He was hitting him with everything, countering perfectly, getting off second, but getting off right and hurting Tio. He had Tio cut early. He buckled Tio's legs, did one of these, a nice classical buckle Rooney. But Rolly, it felt like after he seen Tio's blood, after he seen Tio hurt, he was like, "You're my friend." That started to set back into his mind. It felt like, I think the killer left, and he let his foot off the gas a little bit. He didn't press. It was a completely different Rolly Romero from rounds 1 to 5 than it was from 6 to 12. It was a different guy. And Tio, again, like I said at the top, he showed unbelievable heart. He stayed there all 12 rounds. Even when he was getting hurt and buckled, he would still keep the fight going, still move correctly. Yeah, I find Lopez to be one of the best boxers in the world when he was on. I didn't think that was the best version of Teofimo. That was the version with the most heart. And yeah, sometimes that gets you over the top when, especially, like, I think he has the skill advantage on Rolly. I think he can do a lot more in the ring than Rolly can. And again, the ceiling is higher, and that's the new WBA world champion. Tio Sr., though, in the corner, just another shitty performance. I don't even remember. I didn't write down the quotes, but it was the same sort of Lomachenko. Remember the Lomachenko fight? Like, it was that same sort of messaging, the delusion, the no technical things for Tio to build off in the ring. And I'm going to say it again. I've said it multiple times on the show, and I'm just going to keep on saying it. Tio should seek outside counsel. I think he should go find a new head coach in a new camp and reset. In the post-fight interview, he talked about taking some time off with a new kid on the way, which, congratulations, you absolutely deserve it. Think about what he's done in 2026. Started the fight versus Shakur, started the year, fought Shakur, and now in August beats Rolly to become a champion again. It's an active year, especially when other guys at Tio's level haven't fought in multiple years. We haven't seen Tank literally since COVID. Where's Tank been? MIA and the MIA. You do you, girl. The haters going, hey, cut them off like you a sensei. Yeah. Shout out you, Barty. But yeah, I think this is a well-deserved time off for Tio. He definitely deserves a nice little relaxing rest of this year. I'm sure it was a lot of mental warfare that he's been in the past few months, losing to Shakur the way he did, wanting to get back in the win column, which he did clearly. Yeah, so I hope he finds a new head coach, gets a new team, gets people who actually don't have the I'm your son and you're my dad pressure to just be my coach. I only see you for training, and then like we talk about film and that's it. You don't also come home and hang out with your grandson afterwards and make it all awkward when I want to be far away from you after spending hours in the gym. It's a strange dynamic. So again, I hope he gets a new coach, refreshes the brain, and Tio, the best version of Tio comes out in 2027 because he's a world champion now. And when you start to think about what's next, you got the Ryan Garcia fight in September, later the next month. Devin Haney's always going to be in the mix. What else? Devin Haney's in the mix. Ryan Garcia, if he gets the win over. And who's the other world champion? I believe it's Pero, but Pero is just coming off a fight. So I don't imagine he'll want to get back in there until next year. So definitely a unification has to be next for Teofimo Lopez. I think Devin Haney fights again before Rolly gets back in there, but if he doesn't, that'd be insane. It's been a while since we've seen Dev Haney fight, but he's also another guy who's one of the best in the world. So if he gets in there, I would love to see a Devin Haney versus Tio fight. I would love to see a Teofimo versus Ryan Garcia fight. I don't think Conor Benn beats Ryan Garcia, so that's not even worth entertaining. Respectfully, I think I'm keep doing the skill thing this podcast. This guy got the skill gap. This guy got the skill gap. But there is a definite skill gap between Ryan and Conor Benn. Conor Benn has never won a world title. Ever. And he's been in massive fights with 60,000 people in attendance. Why do you think that is? I'm not going to say you are. But he's been in those positions, but he's never won a world title. He's never fought somebody who I believe with as much skill as Ryan. And what is that saying? Ryan's really known as a puncher who I believe can box. I believe Ryan can tap into his boxing bag that he has, especially versus Ben, who's definitely just going to be seeking to destroy and seeking those big shots. And then you think about that weight cut. What does that look like for Conor Benn? He hasn't been 147 in years. He's competed at 160, 168, just big boy numbers. You want him to cut 20 pounds? Yeah. See what that brain looks like come fight night. But yeah, a lot of movement at 47. Another thing I started to think while I was watching this fight live is Rolly Romero a Hall of Famer? I know that might be insane, but the guy is a gamer. He's fought some of the biggest names, and I do agree he's lost the biggest fights he's been in, Tank, Teofimo, but he also has massive wins in world championship settings, like a Ryan Garcia. And I know his first championship win was controversial, so I'm not even gonna mention the name. I'm not even gonna do it. But he has a few championship wins, and he's fought, and whoever they've given him, Rolly's grown on me. Rolly has grown on me, and this has nothing to do with fighting, but I think Rolly is fucking hilarious. I think he's hilarious. And especially when he's not even trying to be funny, when he's being serious, like walking off on Chris Mannix, asking him a genuine question, when he's walking off after the fight, just asking him genuine stuff. He's just saying thank God and walking off. Like, that shit to me is hilarious. Hilarious. I'm turning into a Rolly guy slowly but surely. But this was Teofimo's night. It was a night for him to show he can eat shots still, show that the chin is still there, show that he's still one of the top dogs in the world. You know, although Shakur waxed that ass for 12 rounds, that wasn't the best version of Tio. And maybe Saturday night's version of T.O. wasn't the best. And that's forever just going to be an evolving pony, because I think T.O. can be the best. Just go get a new coach. Shout out that walkout again, man. Showing love to the Golden Glove champions. That was remarkable. Let's make America great again. Let's make boxing great again, and not that bullshit Trump stuff. Love that. All right. Another thing I seen this week was Teddy Atlas talk about up-and-coming heavyweight Moses Itauma ahead of his first ever world championship fight versus Filip Hrgović. And I think this is a very interesting perspective from Mr. Teddy Atlas, because like this article states, former head trainer with Cus D'Amato of one of the greatest to ever do it, Mike Tyson. And maybe accolade-wise, boxing-wise, Micus isn't the greatest ever, but that dude is one of the best finishers to ever put him on, one of the most feared men to ever do it. So if you're getting comparisons by the guy who trained the guy to be the guy, I think that's a massive, massive compliment. And not to mention, Moses Itauma is only 1 year older than Mike Tyson was when he won his first world title. He could have broke a record if he was just 1 year shy. He was just 1 year shy away from the big Mike Tyson. And I adore Teddy Atlas too, by the way. I think he's a ball knower. There's nobody like Teddy Atlas. And I love that he has his own podcast. I listen to it all the time consistently. That's one of the minds that it's interesting the way he breaks down boxing. In this very article, if I could find it real quick, the way he talked about right here, this line, the way he described Mike Tyson is so unique. And I'm going to read it here for the audio only people. Tyson was more of a one direction seek and destroy machine, but a very good one. And that was him. And to just a little more context, was talking about Moses Itauma just having skill, his ability to box and counter punch and set traps up, versus Mike Tyson was a one direction from point A to point B. If you were standing there, you were getting clipped and put down and dead. And so I just admired this. So shout out Teddy Atlas. I'm very excited again about Moses Itauma. That's the next big heavyweight fight, is him versus Filip Hrgović. That's the next big boxing fight, period. There's nothing else that I'm more enticed about but that one. I'm probably at the start of this month, I made a video about it, but I'm definitely more excited about the heavyweight title fight than I was about Tio Rowley, because that felt like a sparring match of two besties just getting in there, knowing they're getting paid millions to fight one another. Just said, we knew this day would come. Let's just do it. We're making millions, so let's just cash out. And the fight felt that way. I would say it's at the beginning it didn't, but once T.O. got hurt, it started to feel like Rolly was like, yeah, I can't do this. I can't kill my butt. But Moses Itauma, I imagine he's going to go to seek and destroy and become the second youngest heavyweight champion of all time. And I believe he'll be the third. I think Floyd Patterson was a little bit, few months older. Oh, I think this article might say it. Yeah. Floyd Patterson would be at the end of the month. The 21-year-old has a chance to take Floyd and become the second. All right. Yeah, so Mr. Patterson is number 2 at present. But if Itauma gets it done at the end of the month, next week, he's number 2. Only to one of the greatest to ever breathe, in Mike Tyson. So I'm absolutely in on that. Count me in, Papa G. Count me in. A few other things real quick. I won't be long on these last two because I don't have much. The interest level isn't really high. I'll be frank. And I'm going to start with RAF 12. It's cool that fighters now have an opportunity, especially the grapplers, the wrestlers. They now have an opportunity to make a bag outside of getting punched in the face. I don't believe there was ever a wrestling pro division, pro league. There was just like the Olympics. And then it was like, all right, you get into MMA, you go into the WWE. What are you doing? But now RAF comes around and it's like, nah. We're going to give you a bag to wrestle, wrestling rules. And I don't really understand wrestling. Anybody listen to this, hop in the DMs and really give me, if you want to come on the pod, we can talk about the scoring, because I'm watching it and I'm like, is that Sean Brady going for a ride? +5? How do you do the scoring? How was somebody down 8-0 and somehow get the comeback? I have so many questions, but I think it's cool that guys get abilities to compete. Tyron Woodley gets his first win in like a decade. I think the stat was like since 2018 he hasn't won a fight or anything in combat. That changed. Let's go. Who else was in? Asu gets a loss, unfortunately. Aren't you a grappler, bud? See 10-0? What does that even mean? How do you score points? All right, Bo Nickel got a loss. I thought you were a wrestler, bud. You can't be losing to, who's this fella? Let's see. He lost to Max Neely, an amateur wrestler. But he's probably like a 3-time national division champion, all this extra stuff. But Jordan Burroughs defeats Sean Brady. That's another big one. And Marab loses to Henry Cejudo. And Henry Cejudo, man, gets a dub. I think he was up so much in their last one and then somehow loses in the final seconds, and then his comeback match, he gets it done in 36 seconds against one of the greatest grapplers to ever fight in the UFC, and Merab Dvalishvili. The Henry show that they're triple. They don't call me Triple C for no reason. They don't call me Triple C for no reason. And Sean Brady gets scooped up here and slammed on his head. Boink. Jordan Burroughs, man, that guy's serious. I don't know. Sean Brady's a jiu-jitsu guy, which I admire his courage to fight a guy like Burroughs. But that's like Tom Brady going up to like, and I'm not calling Sean Brady Tom Brady. I'm not comparing them, but I'm just saying in theory, that's like Aaron Rodgers going up to Bradley Beal and being like, let's play a one-on-one. How about we go hoop? Let's go have a 3-point contest. It makes 0 sense. Shout out Sean Brady. Again, I appreciate and admire the courage, bro. But a rough stretch for Sean Brady. Woodley there gets the win. Well, no win for you, bud. Just 3-2 loss to an amateur wrestler. What can you do? What can you do? Shit happens. I would not want to beat Bo Nickel, but Jordan Burroughs got the win. Everybody gets paid, so everybody should be happy. Shout out Raph. I know Colby Covington, that dog shithead, is an owner of it. Which, you know how we feel about Colby Covington, but he's a part owner, so we respect it. I think Mr. Armand Sarukian is too. We're a big Armand guy over here. All right. Next topic. I'll be very fast with this one. Adin Ross is playing Dana White, and he posed this card on Saturday night, this Austin McBroom versus FaZe Temper, which that one at the very top just ended in brutal fashion, brutally fashion. And it couldn't have happened for a worser person. Like, I was hoping coming into this that I would see the other guy on his back chasing breath. Look at him. That's somebody who doesn't know about, like, there's somebody who's unconscious and not well, and you are losing your mind, and oh man, that is a tough one. And FaZe Temper, I think it's time, bud. I think it's time, because you join a very, very few group on this earth that have a highlight reel of KOs, being on the receiving end of KOs. It's honestly remarkable. It's sad to see. I hope this is the very end of your boxing career. And this is a message to all young lads who are chasing boxing and trying to get into the sport. If this is your life dream, go do, please. I admire it. And I will hopefully get the opportunity to cover you on the channel. But if you're a YouTuber and a streamer and it's just like, this is the cool thing to do, don't do it, because you don't play boxing. You can get FaZe tempered and just lose years and years off your life just playing boxing. It's a dangerous sport. It's the reason why you got to take it serious. And not saying he didn't, because he could have been taking this as serious as anybody. But look what happens. Moral of the story, you don't play boxing. A few other ones that I was very intrigued the outcome of was the Larry Wheels versus Vitaly one. Larry Wheels is like this massive 350-pound bodybuilder that slapped the Dean the Great guy in the face. And I was just like, how is he going to make a 265 weight limit? How is he going to box for multiple minutes consecutively? But this one played out. Like, you think about this one coming into it, right? You're like, this could happen. This could happen. He's probably going to get gassed out. It'll probably be a shitty fight. And then what you wouldn't believe happened, like something I didn't even take into consideration as a possibility, was the outcome. I didn't think his arm was going to fall off and his bicep was going to start doing the Dougie and puncturing. It was a ruled no contest due to an injury because his bicep broke. What happened to his body? Like it was definitely, it's like somebody took a hammer and just hit it and it was stuck like that. It looked gross. And Vitaly was trying to advocate that he got hit with an extra shot. Meanwhile, this guy's bicep was broken. It was honestly scenes. Bob Menery came out looking like the Irish in the Fighting Irish logo. Just jokes. Super Hot Fire was in the press conference talking about he's the greatest to ever do it. And no comment on the fight. No comment. It was just influencers fighting each other. And I think there's a lot of value to it because I was intrigued. The Teofimo versus Rolly undercard was so dog shit that I was actually watching this brand risk event. I was actually watching these boxing matches because it was the same thing. Like, I was just like, what is this undercard? Where are the exciting fights? They're at brand risk. It was a silly, silly Saturday evening. But then Teofimo Lopez and Rolly showed up and they shut shit down. All right. I think that's all I got. If you made it to this part of the podcast, I greatly appreciate the support. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Follow us on TikTok. Engage with the shorts on YouTube, Instagram. We're everywhere. So please join the journey. Thank you for being here. And until the next one, Free Palestine. Bye.